Hey guys, Jim here. Time to do something a little bit different. This isn't really a review or overview. This is more of a showcase or a spotlight on Robert Carter. If you guys haven't seen it already, I did do an overview on one of my Robert Carter knives, the F16, and obviously I very, very much love it. But the reason why this is not really a review of any sort is there is absolutely nothing here to critique. What you're about to see are, in my opinion, two absolutely perfect examples of completely handmade custom knives. One is going to be the Cricut XL, and the other one is going to be the F16 Variant. Now, we're going to get to the F16 a little bit later, but I'll give you a quick look at it just to give you a sneak peek as to what's coming later on in the video. This is magnificent in absolutely every way, and we'll get to that in just a little while. But for now, we're going to focus on this bad boy. Now, neither of these knives belong to me. They belong to a gentleman named Patrick Gleason. Pat is a super awesome guy. You should definitely follow him on Instagram because he has got one hell of a bitchin' collection. I'll spell his Instagram name just so it's easier to find. SLUHSTUD. Not really sure how it would actually be pronounced, a Slustud or Slew-stud or something like that. He's a stud nonetheless because he owns some really bitchin' knives. This was basically an idea that he had that he worked on Rob with. And Rob basically started making the Cricut, which was a little teeny tiny little flipper. I think it's a 3-inch or under 3-inch, like 2.85-inch blade. Super tiny. And this is the very first of the XL. This thing is a beast, over a 4-inch blade. I didn't actually measure it like I normally do because I was just kind of in a hurry to sit down and get this done, but it is a one hell of a massive blade. So it's a very, very large flipper. This is the very first XL. It's the very first time that Rob has done bolsters on a knife. And it's also the first time for him to use this type of lock on the knife. This lock is really badass. So basically, Pat wanted to do hammered copper and zirconium. Now, it is a phenomenal combination, but this is almost like holding a cinder block in the hand. It is a ridiculously heavy knife. Now, I actually dig that. I think it's cool as shit. But this is not going to be super EDC friendly just because of the immense weight. The detail work on this is absolutely phenomenal. I love the fact that he stippled the zirconium in the pocket clip to kind of go along with the stippled effect in the hammered copper. There's a lot of little details here. I'm going to try to get to all of these details in both of the knives in one video. So let's get it open. Oh, first, let's just talk about the action. Oh my God. Quick, snappy, and you got to realize this is a massive, massive blade. That's about 200 thou thick. So there's a lot of weight being thrown out of here. I love the shape. This is so wonderfully ergonomic. It fits right in the hand. Even though it's, you know, ridiculously thick, it is a real joy to hold in the hands. My favorite thing about this knife is the fact that he left no stone unturned. First, you take a look at this lock. I'm going to try to give you a good look inside and let you see how it's all put together. My camera doesn't really want to focus in there. Let's see if we can try it that way. There we go. Very interesting the way that he chose to do this. Now, basically, it's a sub-frame lock. I know that he had a slightly different name for it. Basically, he's doing what a few other makers have done. We've seen Tony Marfione do it. We've seen, obviously, Todd Begg do it and a few other makers. It's a really interesting setup because this whole lock here is completely replaceable. Now, that is actually going to be titanium. Before somebody goes off and says, well, copper would be too weak for a lock bar. That is actually a ridiculously thick piece, by the way. I believe we were talking, and he said it's an 1/8 inch thick. on that lock bar just to give it some extra strength. There is the lockup, by the way. But some of the other details that really blew me away, we really have to start with the pivot. So you've got an Alpha knife supply pivot, and what he did was he put it on the lathe, opened it up, and just kind of hollowed out a bowl inside. And inside of that opening, obviously it's beautifully mirror polished, inside of that opening, what he's done is he has taken dust and chips from the copper and from the zirconium, and he's inlaid it with a type of resin to hold it in place into the pivot. So you can see that it is actually a bit different than the bolster. I thought when I first saw this that it was just some way of doing some kind of fancy hammering on copper, then he had laid like a copper button in there. But you'll see it is actually quite different, and it's a beautiful look. I mean, that's incredible creativity, and in my opinion, this knife represents the next level of evolution for what Rob is doing. You got to realize that Rob is only 30 years old. He's only been making knives for 3 years, and everything's been part-time. His full-time job takes him away for weeks on end on the boat that he captains. He's out there for weeks on end, and he's got a family at home and everything else. So when he does get back home, he's got to split up his time between spending time with his great family and then also making a few knives. So to see progression like this in such a short amount of time, with so little time to actually dedicate to the making of knives, I'm blown away. Everything is perfectly mated. The copper looks amazing. It's a wonderful color contrast up against the zirconium. Did a great job shaping everything. Everything, you look at the handles, they're fully contoured. And when we were talking about that, he says that each of these handles, each side, started out as 200,000ths of an inch thick before he started contouring. So you have massive slabs on either side of this knife. Really feels amazing. The blade, actually, the blade stock was given to him by Pat, and he says from what he recalls, he knows it's Nichols Sanmai. He believes that it's XHP core. He was thinking maybe it might have been PD1, but he's pretty sure it's CTS SHP core, which is actually what he's using on the knife he's building for me right now. So we wanted to do something a little bit more exotic than we had done in the past. And I got to tell you, it is a striking combination. Very, very sharp, as you would expect. And when you look at the grinds here, and especially when you see the grinds on the F16, you'll be amazed to know that he completely freehand grinds everything. No jigs, no fixtures, no nothing. And all of his grind lines are very sharp, very, very precise. And I mean, obviously, he's had some great influence from his family. He comes from the Pardue family, for those that don't know, Joe and Mel Pardue. And he began, you know, working with them and assembling some of the knives that they were working on and learning how to make gentleman's folders and whatnot. And when he decided to do this for himself, I love the fact that he broke out and did, in my opinion, incredibly different kinds of knives, mostly very tactical knives. This, in my opinion, really goes into the realm of an art knife. Yes, it can be carried. Yes, it can be used, and used hard, by the way. It's an incredible blade with incredible strength, but it really is almost an art knife in the way that this was executed. And that's something that, quite honestly, I didn't expect out of him. I didn't think he would ever go that route or go this exotic, but he has. He's done a really beautiful bolstered style clip here. I want to give credit where credit is due. Matt Kuchera is actually the first person to have done a bolstered clip. And only a few other guys have done it. The inspiration for this one really came from Pat. Pat wanted Rob to do this. That was one of the big requests that he had, was to do a bolstered clip to go with the bolstered knife. And the only time that Rob had seen a bolstered clip before was when Nalu did it. But that is actually where the inspiration comes from Matt. And Rob says he enjoyed doing it so much, and it looks so perfect with the overall balance of the knife, that he does plan on doing this again on future bolstered knives. Can't get enough of that backspacer too. That is just amazing. Just incredible. So that is the story of the Cricut XL. This is the only existing oversized Cricut at this point. I don't know if he's going to be making any more. And do realize that his books are not open. He barely has time to get through the orders that he has, let alone the orders that I've kind of thrown over to him from the videos that I've done on his work. So do keep that in mind. If you're able to somehow talk him into, slipping in there somewhere, it'll be a very, very long wait. But trust me when I tell you, it is absolutely worth it. So I'm going to get this one out of the way just for right now. We will come back and revisit that in a few minutes. I wanted to show you the F16 Variant. And the reason why it's called Variant is the F16 model is supposed to be like mine as far as being a flipper. So mine is actually different than everybody else's. I've got a crazy thick blade and everything on here, but that's the basic idea of what the F16 would normally be. The Variant came about because as he was building this knife, he cut too much of the flipper tab off to where enough wasn't exposed from the frame to be an actual flipper. So he went ahead and notched it out and it became a thumb disc manual opener. But I'll tell you right now, this is hands down one of the top 3 smoothest knives I have ever felt with my hands. The action on this is truly, truly jaw-dropping. And when we discussed that, he said a lot of it comes from the fact that this scale is full zirconium. Basically, the smoothness comes from the zirconium. What he does is he rolls the bearing track in there while the Zirc is still soft. Because until you oxidize it and get this hard surface on there, zirconium is actually very, very soft. So when it's still in the soft state is when he's able to roll in the bearing track. And then what he does after that is he does the heat treat around the pivot area, and then he quenches it until it's smoothed out. It's like the surface of glass. It's like ceramic. It's glass-like smooth, and it's super crazy hard. And because of that, the action is even smoother. Yes, even smoother than my full titanium variation of this knife. Playing with this is incredible. This was actually built at the exact same time mine was. And these were both delivered at Blade 2014. He hand-delivered mine and he hand-delivered Pat's. And I remember handling this when I saw Rob the night before Blade Show. And I was blown away with it then, and I'm blown away with it now. And thank you to Pat for throwing this in as a bonus when he shipped the Cricut. I was not expecting this, and I'm truly, totally in love with it. Basically, it's an S90V steel blade, completely hand-ground, free hand-ground. I love this particular grind with the very big top swedge on it, and it makes for a very pronounced tip. Everything is wonderfully symmetrical. I love this little detail here. Everything about this knife is as perfect as you would ever want. And it makes me sick that I don't have this one in my collection. I've already tried offering Pat a few things. I'm like, oh, dude, I'd trade pretty much anything for this knife. He's like, nah, I just love it too much. And I totally understand. So you've got your zirconium scale with the titanium pivot ring. Really nice contrast there. Very classy. Most people wouldn't have even thought about doing that. It just would have been full Zirc. That's a really nice added touch. Then you've got the glass breaker on the back. Not entirely certain what that material is. I'm going to assume that it's titanium since it's finished the same way as the lock side. Lock side is a really, really nice eggshell titanium. Oh, the pocket clip and the thumb stud. Take a good look at those. This will actually blow your mind. Those are black Timascus. And most people, when they take Timascus, they color it and make it beautiful and rosy and purpley and pretty. Instead, what he did was, instead of doing any of the heat treatment to bring the colors out, once he finished it, he just kind of blasted it and left it kind of in a black and white state. And it looks really badass. I wasn't sure what it was at first. I thought it was some sort of Damascus, but it just didn't feel like it was steel. He says, nope, that's actually black Timascus. So very, very exotic, very cool on that. Oh, I love this thing. So this was the very first F16 variant. It is also the very first F16 to get the fuller grooves milled into the frame. And I believe he's only made 2 zirconium F16s in total, if I'm not mistaken. There may only be this one, but I want to say that there's 2, because I know that my buddy Bill from Instagram, I know he had a zirconium F16 as well. So yeah, there are 2, but this was the very first one of its kind. So it is very, very special. And Pat was really cool. He's like, oh, no, dude, feel free to pocket it and carry it and have fun with it. Honestly, I can't do that. The knife is just too incredible. It really is. Oh my God, I almost took my fucking finger off. Holy shit. You guys would have been witness to that. Do you realize that? As I would have had to stop the fucking camera and run to the emergency room. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rob, for making a super smooth knife with razor sharp S90V steel. Oh yeah, that's kind of the point of making a good knife. Super sharp, super smooth. So here they are, side by side. Oh, in all their glory. God, I love the grind on that F16. Super, super gorgeous. And it's making me all the more anxious for mine. Rob is actually building me what I consider to be the ultimate F16. We went full Timascus, front and back, lock side is also Timascus. And then we did the XHP core Sanmai steel blade on there as well. For some reason, I couldn't get that out of my mouth. What you're looking at is incredible work, something that you would not expect for someone of Rob's age, or the fact that he's only been making knives for 3 years. Yes, he had great tutors and mentors, of course, but at some point you have to break away and do your own shit, make your own mistakes, and really make your own path. He's not really trying to ride their coattails and make the same kind of knives they do and try to cater to that customer and, let nepotism take him away. He has broken off to do something that I feel is very, very much different, and he's doing it very well. Rob is one of my absolute top favorite makers in the game. I also consider him a friend. He's a super awesome guy, but even if I had never met him, if we had never talked and I'd only handled his knives, I would tell you the same thing. He is at the top of the game. He's one of my favorite makers, and he's showing great displays of creativity and uniqueness in his details. Again, just looking at these 2 pivots, looking at this pivot collar around the zirconium scale, it would have been just fine being full zirconium, but he took it that extra little step. It may not seem like a big deal to most, but just having the thought process to say, hey, what else can I do without junking up the knife, without overdoing it, just to add a little bit more. And to do the pivot that he's done here on the Cricut XL, it really speaks to the creativity that he has in his mind. And I'm excited to see when he has more time on the grinder and more time on the bench, what else he's going to come up with. Because what I'm holding in my hands is truly one of the most impressive knives I've ever seen. If you haven't had a chance yet, go over to my Instagram and check out the photography I did on these so you can see a little bit more of the details and just see the overall sexiness of this knife. By the way, I just want to throw one more thing out there. How ballsy is it to go, I'm going to do my first bolstered knife and not do straight bolsters? There are guys out there that have been doing bolstered knives for a long time that won't attempt to do something like this. It's incredible. Every little detail, the feel in the hand, the contouring, the sharpness, the grind lines, the symmetry, the overall balance of each of these knives truly speaks to somebody that's a world-class knife maker. So I just can't wait to see what happens in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, because I think he's going to be in the game for life. And I think he's going to be constantly surprising people with what he's able to pull off. So with that, I'm going to end the video. Hey, look at that. I was able to squeeze in both in the same video. Thank you guys ever so much. Thank you to Pat for letting me borrow these. I'm going to get these back in the mail to you in the next day or two. Thank you to Rob for creating such incredible pieces of art and for being an all-around kick-ass dude. And hey, for making me knives as well. So next time you see me, hopefully you'll be seeing my new F16 up under the lens. We'll see about that. Take care, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.